Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night in early spring, and I guess it's time to start a Farminar. Really glad you're all here tonight with us, and wanted to just point out that we are nearing the end of our spring Farminar series for this year, and what a series it's been, from managing farm labor to tonight's brokering tips. And we've seen a bunch of different kinds of farms, different scales, and different enterprises. So it's been a great mix, and we're really happy to provide this for everybody tonight, and also the folks watching the recordings online. Wanted to thank the supporters for this series, the Farm Aid and the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program. Great organizations that are supporting really good works of nonprofits like Practical Farmers of Iowa. And we really appreciate that funding to help us pay our farmers for their knowledge and pay to use this technology. So let's begin. Wanted to just really encourage everybody that's watching, if you're not a member of PFI, even if you might live in, say, Galesburg, Iowa, or in Missouri, we would love to have you as a member of our organization. It's a really easy online join process as well as donation. So you can just check that out at practicalfarmers.org. And if you join our organization, there's some great benefits I wanted to tell you about. But additionally, keep in mind that if you want to go back and review this Farminar and any Farminar we've done, they're all recorded and available online for free at practicalfarmers.org/Farminar. Some of the benefits of membership, why join PFI? It's always a good question to ask. Well, we have a great field day guide that we present only to members. We'll mail it right to your house. And you'll see 20 to 30 events from June through November. On-farm events where you can talk to farmers, check things out, kick some tires, and see what's going on different farms across the state. We also have a members-only email list service, which allows folks to communicate from across the country or around the world, and get a great way to if you have a question about seed sourcing or a marketing question or anything. There's probably a farmer in our membership in our email listserv that has a few tips to offer you electronically. We also offer discounts to our annual conference, which is a great every annual event there every year in Central Iowa, and it's a great benefit to come together and to share experiences and wisdom among a really diverse network of farmers. And we offer a discount to attend that annual conference just for members. You also can receive a quarterly subscription to our members-only newsletter, which is only offered in print. It's called The Practical Farmer, and it includes research reports of our farmers' research, as well as tips and tricks shared by farmers, farmer stories ranging from cultural stories to practical production or marketing questions. And it also, I think, probably the most important thing above all these things are you build the movement. By contributing as a donor or as a member, you're helping to build this movement of triple bottom line farmers, which is really rapidly expanding right now. Our membership has seen growth of about 14% each of the last 3 years. So by joining, you're saying to the world that this is a really important kind of farming, and you want to be a part of it. So at the office, this is what we do to answer our members' needs. Once you join, we are responsible to you, and we report to you and let you know what we're up to, and to try to meet your needs. And we do that by writing grants and fundraising to support the work, as well as coordinating research projects, so that farmers can not get bogged down in all the details of lining up the research around the state, but they can just farm and do the research on their farms. We help coordinate that. We also help plan field days, and right now we're offering a youth mini grant opportunity. If you got a child in the age 18 or less, we want to encourage research and demonstration projects for that youth age group. And we're offering mini grants in the amount of $50 to $250, and that deadline for applications is April 15th. If you're interested, shoot me an email, luke@practicalfarmers.org, or check out our website under the Next Generation tab on the left side of the page. So tonight, let's talk about brokering tips with two great farmers here in Iowa, Ryan Marquardt and Nick Wallace. And tonight, let's start how would you like to start tonight, Nick? Would that be all right?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let me load up your slideshow, and we will begin with Nick Wallace.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Wallace. My company is Wallace Farms. And that's a marketing company. I wear a couple different hats. I'm a farmer myself for the last 6-7 years. I got into it a little late. I'm 33 now, so kind of did a few things and came back to the farm after living in downtown Chicago and living out in Oregon and living in the mountains in Colorado, and then came back, and Dad had a great idea to turn the best corn and soybean country back into grass, and it's where he grew up. So we have 160 acres here, and we're transitioning that back to forage, and eventually we'll probably finish 150 to 200 steers or heifers on this farm. We're doing cows now, but we're probably going to get away from cows because it's such a high rent ground. But we'll have, and I raise lambs as well. And we'll get into more turkeys and vegetables and other things. But for right now, just because I'm so busy with the Wallace Farms marketing side, that I don't get to do all the farming that I'd really like. And Dad helps out quite a bit. So, but I'll focus mostly on Wallace Farms, the meat sales, and because that's what obviously we're talking about. We started this back in 2000, give or take, in the garage, and we were working with a good friend of ours, Doug Gunnick, whom some of you may or may not know. And we decided that he had really good grass-fed beef, and we actually started brokering before we started really farming and selling our own meat. So we started in 2000 just by selling a few head here and there just to kind of test the waters. And it wasn't until 2004 when I moved back that we decided to make a real business of it, and at the same time started to produce grass-fed beef ourselves. So we always had in mind, it wasn't just Wallace Farm, it was Wallace Farms, because we always had in mind that it wouldn't just be our farm or another farm, it might be a coalition of farms as we grew. So we started in 2004. We probably direct marketed maybe 10 head that year. And at this point in time, in 2011, I probably am going to direct market anywhere between 200 to 250 head of cattle. And that's pretty much every cut of the animal, every bone. I buy whole carcasses, either from my farm or another farm. And we value add that through a couple unique processors, and then we sell all of our cuts retail directly to the customer. We don't do any wholesaling. Well, I do a few, but not. It's like 0.5% of my business. And I've set those up through what I call buying clubs or farm clubs, is what we're changing the name to. And that's regarding the beef. And so I'm a beef producer myself, and we work with probably 4 or 5 other beef producers. It's a family business, as you can see there, that myself, I do all the marketing. Well, I've done everything up to this point except for last year, and then my mom does the books. My dad helps on the farm and drives some truck products into Chicago every once in a while. And Lisa is my sister-in-law. She lives in Naperville. That's a suburb of Chicago, where the store is, and we run in product there, and we direct market through kind of a warehouse store, buying club type venue. You're seeing turkeys there. It reminds me that we work with other vendors. So, and I kind of get going one place and the other, but we work with other producers of high quality food. It's always been my goal to personally try to seek out the best food sources possible. And the big reason of that was because when I was 19 years old, I found out I had cancer. So it started a long journey and trek, and that's kind of why we're at now, is we found out that our food supply had really been compromised. And so we went back, and a lot of the directions pointed to nutrition. And so Now I work with fish camps in Alaska because we were looking for salmon for ourselves, and it just kind of led to one thing, led to another, and we were looking for good turkey, we were looking for good chicken. So what I've done is created a coalition of farmers that are like-minded and produce really high-quality food that I want to buy, and if it's good enough for me and my family, that's the decision and that's the criteria that I use when I offer it to my customer base. It has to be good enough for my family. So my personal mission is to really change the food supply and to go directly to the customer. I mean, grocery stores have their place. I don't have anything against them. I just think that if you really want to know your food, you can just meet the farmer. And it's either at his place or he'll come to you, or maybe you meet in the middle, and that's what we do. We have grown organically. We don't wholesale. There's a couple grass-fed beef companies, friends of mine. You probably know who they are. They've grown really fast, and they wholesale, and it's a totally different system. We'd say we're not like it says, we're not driven to be the largest producer. We just want to be the best. So really high-quality focus on the products and value adding those products and just making them the best that they can be. We work, again, we do the beef, grass-fed beef. Some of our producers are certified organic, some aren't. My farm could be, but I choose not to. We work with a couple organic chicken producers and pasture land butter. They're organic. The turkeys are not organic. The fresh air, I call it fresh air pork. Some of that is organic, some is not. And then obviously the seafood in Alaska is wild. We believe in wild seafood. And then I work with a shrimping company down in Florida that uses no chemicals in their freezing process, and it's wild from the Gulf. So you might ask what a buying club is. It's essentially all my customers or potential customers are in an email group, and last Friday they got the email for my delivery notice, and each month they get it because I hit each spot once a month. So Friday, everybody in Ames, Iowa, there's probably 300 people in that email group, got the email. By Monday night, all the orders had come in that were, all the people that were going to order, it was like 36 people. I packed up the orders, and actually my mom and my neighbor came over and packed up the orders. We put her on the truck, and I went to Ames today, and I dropped off normally from 4 to 6, but I cut it short because I needed to get back to do this Farminar. So within an hour or two, I had 36 people show up. They get their food for the month, and I get paid right away, so I don't have to worry about payables. And we do that in each spot once a month. It consolidates my time, my resources. Again, you get the payables right away. You know what you're taking on the truck. I tried farmers markets the first couple years, and you find out real quick that in a hot summer day, lugging around meat and selling meat to people that are going to stay out in the hot sun and enjoy their farmers market, it's not the right market for frozen meat. It's great for vegetables. It's great for value-added products that don't have to be refrigerated. And no offense to the people that are doing farmers markets, there's a niche. I mean, I just found that it would waste a whole day, and I was spinning my wheels. So I decided to follow. I believe I got it from Joel Salatin with the buying club idea. Metropolitan Buying Club is what Joel uses, and it's worked great. I have 4 locations in Des Moines, Iowa, 1 in Ames, Iowa, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Iowa City, Iowa. Those are the main cities in Iowa. And then I also have 1 in the north suburbs of Chicago, downtown Chicago on the north side. I used to live down there, so I know my way around. And out in Naperville, we have the warehouse buying club where people come. We're open 6 days a month, so we do like one cycle of a Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and then we're off a week, and then we're back on. And we may up those times because it's just growing really fast. So essentially, that's what a buying club is. at this point, Luke, I could talk about a million things, and maybe at this point, we can get in with Ryan, and he maybe have some specifics on brokering.
Perfect. Great introduction. I appreciate those comments, and we'll let Ryan introduce himself, and then go into questions, and we'll have questions from the audience as well. So go ahead, Ryan.
All right, well, I just took my mic off mute, so I'm ready to go. We're Wild Rose Pastures. I farm with my wife, Janice, here, basically south of Newton, north of Pella, just east of Des Moines. We raise chickens, turkeys, lamb, and beef. We started by taking the Greater Small Market class in 2007. We rented a little place up by Boone, and then we purchased this place back, in December 2007, and then moved in just after I defended my thesis in 2008. So, and then we've been basically sprinting ever since to get this place operational. It's an old cattle farm that hasn't had any livestock on it in 25 years. So you can just imagine how the infrastructure's all shot to oblivion. But let's see. So, like, for instance, last year we raised 480 broilers. We do broilers is kind of our mainstay product. We'll raise them on pasture and Southern style pens. We failed miserably at raising 200 turkeys, which facilitated why we had to consider brokering, because it was something that we came to out of necessity last year. I think we had 260 turkey chicks on the farm. I think 58 made it to the lock. So it was pretty desperate there for a while. We run about 80 layers. We have about 30 ewes, and then we have a small herd of Delta Galloway cattle. I mentioned that before. We do, broilers and Southern style pens. Turkeys are in pens, and then they range when they get older. And then the lamb and cattle they're all grass finished animals. There's no grain involved. And then our layers range during the day. We don't have a movable chicken house, like one of those types of setups that a lot of people do. Something we'd like to do, but not something we haven't had time to get set up. I just figured we'd share our general product pricing. Since we don't have a great many products, that's pretty much what it is, aside from lamb cuts. That's pretty much most of our product is poultry. Like, for instance, last year we did just under 18,000 in sales, and 95% of that is all poultry. And of that, I'd say 3/4 of that is turkeys. So we typically, I'm kind of been surprised at how similar some of our marketing is to Nick's. We market through 3 channels. We have a website with an interactive order page, so people can click what they want and we deliver monthly to Ames, Des Moines, and Pella. We have a set delivery day in like the third week of the month, one day, and we're there for an hour and a half for pickup. And so we'll have the order up. Customers can place orders, and then we'll send reminder emails and have them put in order. It's very similar to Nick's Buying Club setup. We also do Pickett French Creamery Sample Sunday. That's a very big day for us. Jill Burkhart, who runs the place, she takes a sign up for turkeys, and then we also bring some extra turkeys up there. I mean, for instance, like I said, I think we did 18,000, right around 18,000 in sales last year, and we did 7,000 in one day there. So that's how important Pickett Fence Creamery, that one Sample Sunday, is to our business. It's huge. And then Iowa Food Cooperative is something we do mostly. Iowa Food Cooperative is a nice way to just have some steady income, and kind of once we only do those fixed deliveries to Ames, Des Moines, and Pella 6 months out of the year, from June through November, and so the rest of the year, Iowa Food Cooperative helps bring down whatever inventory we don't have, and it's also a really good way to get rid of odds and ends that you don't necessarily have an easy way to market. We usually just put them up there, and that cleans them out. We communicate with our customers with an active farm blog, Facebook, and then we do our annual farm newsletter, which is, as usual, late. It needs to be out right now, and it's not. So we're something to do next week. We avoid farmers markets for very similar reasons that Nick mentioned before. I mean, you have to have the inspected storage at the long and early hours. We're not by choice morning people, and if you were going to do a farmer's market, you probably wouldn't want to do the Des Moines farmer's market because that would be worth the time and the effort to do. And then at that point, that would we probably wouldn't be able to produce enough to do that. So it's just kind of, I like the regularity of having our system the way it is. We have a set database of about 250 emails. And so we work those for linked to our delivery dates. And then we've had some spotty luck with some restaurants and retailers. I mean, like Nick mentioned, like restaurants and retailers are usually looking at about a 30-day payout. And I've had some pay me after more than 90 days. I think they were a struggling restaurant. And I was getting a little dodgy there. But and sometimes... Yeah, something like I was mentioning, the misrepresentation of product. Like I've had problems too, where they'll say my product is organic, and I tell them it's not organic, and when you do that, go through those channels, you surrender a lot of control of your marketing to them more than sometimes I want to. So you just do surrender some product control, and it's just something you have to be cognizant of when you go through those outlets. So yeah, so our little bit of brokering experience started last year out of necessity. We lost 70% of our expected turkeys last year. We were contacted by our Amish locker about a producer who raised birds very similar to ours, and he was trying to sell them to Fairway. I went down, and I looked at the setup, and they were only going to give him $1.25 a pound, and he was trying to get like $1.30 or $1.40 a pound or something ridiculous. And I was like, look, I'll give you $1.75 a pound, and we'll give it a shot. Let's see how this goes for us. So we bought 110 birds from them to kind of augment our sales. We're really upfront with our customers that these weren't birds that we raised, but they were raised in a fashion that was the same as we would have raised them. We did differentiate our birds from the brokered birds, and when we had customers who are early customers who placed their orders several months in advance or who put deposits down, they got our birds unless they, for some reason, were okay with the other birds. And there's another thing to be cognizant of when you're brokering is there's a lot of outlets that you can't broker products through, like the Food Cooperative, or like we sold some turkeys to the Ames Farmers Market because we had since we bought 110, we had more than we had set up for because we had been losing so many, so we kind of had backed away from it. So then we sold to our Ames Farmers Market. We had to get a waiver. So brokering was something new to us, but it really saved our season. I don't know what we would have done if we would have been in a really bad position in terms of our cash reserves going into 2000. Oh, there she goes. Going into 2011, if we hadn't have done it.
It also keeps continuity of customers for us. That's the big.
Yeah. So another thing that selling those turkeys was great too, because it helped us retain some of our customers. We weren't. I was a little concerned that like if we couldn't provide the turkey, they would go elsewhere, and then we wouldn't be able to supply them in the future. They might get accustomed to another producer and not us, and so we might get into trouble that way. But if anybody has any questions out there, I'm kind of open to questions. If we do brokering in the future, I've thought long and hard about maybe brokering cattle, actually, because with our land is very poor. It's for those who know corn suitability rating, it's CSR 35. It's pretty terrible. It's sandy, hilly stuff, and I think that cattle. I think we'll have a hard time raising enough cattle to meet what demand we could potentially have, and I think that would be a good place for us to consider brokering. And then selling the rest of our products as our own. Are there any questions out there? Or, I mean, I've got questions for Nick, too, so we can go on to those, Luke.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to your questions first, and then we'll take a questions from the audience at the end.
Cool.
Maybe Nick might have a question to ask you, or vice versa, about each other's farms before we begin with these questions.
I'll probably just have them as we go through the back and forth on the main ones, because I think you had some good ones for me.
Okay. I kind of sent Nick 10 questions, and I mean, we were just wondering, kind of what size markup do you kind of feel is reasonable with a product that you buy?
We generally work between 25 and 35%. A good rule of thumb is just take your product that you're going to buy. So in the case of your turkeys, you spend $1.75. Generally, I would just take that number times 1.5. And I don't have a calculator in front of me, but it's probably about $3 or so, give or take, or maybe over. And I usually use round numbers just because it's easier for me and it's easier for other people. So I might sell those for $3 or $3.25. Because you got to think you got a lot of costs in that. That's typically what a grocery store does, or other retail, like clothes and that type of stuff might be a little higher than that. But generally, food that I've seen, the little bit of ground beef that I've sold to wholesalers, usually they'll take my number. So if I sell them some ground beef for $4, usually they're going to charge anywhere from $5.50 to $6.50 on them. So that's generally what I've done. What did you sell those turkeys for?
No, I $3.50 a pound.
Okay, so that's very good. I mean, you had to go get them. You had the money. You had the risk of paying that how much money, not knowing.
Yeah, no, I had to buy.
So
I had to buy a lot of freezers actually too, because I had to store them.
See, there you go. And I guarantee you, every one of those customers who bought it, not only did they enjoy the turkey, but they enjoyed knowing that you were able to make money on it, and you're going to keep doing what you're doing. You have to remember that too. So just keep that in the back of your head. That people, your customers, they want you to survive. They want you to become financially stable, so that you keep bringing them good food, because that's why they came to you. So they are your best friends regarding that. So don't ever feel like you're, am I charging too much? Or, I'm not saying you have to charge crazy amounts, but just be fair. That's generally how we feel about it. Okay.
Yeah, no, we were wondering. So you had mentioned that, for instance, you were raising your own cattle and you're also brokering some cattle. Now, when you're selling the broker product, do you differentiate your cattle from those other cattle? And how do you kind of approach that?
We don't because, originally Wallace Farms started by selling only one person's cattle, Doug Gunnick's. And then we got to the point where we needed more than Doug's, and then that was my farm. I finally had my own finished. And then we picked up another friend that by Doug, John Lumen. So we don't differentiate, but we do let our customers know that we can't possibly raise all the cattle on our farm because there's way too much demand out there. You touched on that earlier. I mean, this market is outpacing supply. Demand is far outreaching supply at this point. So if I were you, I'd have no problem hooking up with someone close to you that raises really high quality grass-fed beef and try to work something out with them. And be sure to let your customers know. Just say, hey, we're growing. We're trying to include more farmers in doing this. You supporting us supports them. So, and you're going to, that farmer may not have the time or may not want to market, go to the farmer's market or set up buying clubs or go through your Iowa food co-op. They might not, well, although you can't do the food co-op with other people's products, but I mean, that's value added, you taking their product, giving them a very fair price or above market price and selling their product. I mean, that's a win-win for everybody involved.
I think that's some really solid advice. I mean, with us, poultry will only take you so far in terms of paying the bills. So I just, and the lamb business, lamb is a little nichier, and I think, I mean, it's going well, but I'm not 100% comfortable with it. It's just something that's kind of new to us, and I'm sure we could do cattle, but the expense of getting cattle up and running is a little is daunting. And then with our land base, with our as poor as it is, I don't see where I can do it. So I think brokering kind of makes sense in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, you are your representative, and what you're doing is branding Wild Rose Pastures as the best food that you can either raise or you can find. It's probably very similar to what our philosophy is, right?
How?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to feed your kid the best food you can. And you may not be able to raise all that. So you want to, your neighbor might raise something really well. So Wild Rose Pastures becomes you and your neighbor, and then it becomes you and another friend. So, I mean, I think that's the only way that we make it is to do that, because not everybody wants to market. I mean, it's hard work. Some people just aren't good at it, or they feel uncomfortable, or there's a million reasons why people. Hey, half the time I just want to be a farmer too. I'm less of a farmer now than I've ever been, and it bothers me sometimes. And we're trying to do some things so that I can be more of a farmer and delegate some of the other stuff that I do, but we're not quite there yet.
Well, I think you mentioned that. My next question was, how does your brokering affect your branding? And I think you mentioned that your farm is you think of it kind of as a collection of farms providing product. And that's something we haven't thought about it in terms of, but I think you summarized. I mean, I think you summarized that when you said that. But if you wanted to say more on it, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at my logo, and if I look at it as if I'm looking at it as a customer or a potential customer, I want them to write in their brain that first trigger in their brain is they see Wallace Farms logo, and it just means quality. It's like, oh God, that's really good food. I mean, there's no other thought to their mind after they see that over and over, and they eat really good stuff over and over. And I'm kind of, like you, we got the Facebook thing going, and we're just constantly educating and teaching them, because a lot of people don't know about farming, but they want to. Everybody, I think, has an agrarian
desire,
an agrarian gene in their body. It's just whether or not they're on a farm. Yeah. So when they just think you want them to see Wild Rose Pastures and be like, wow, they have really good stuff. Oh yeah, do they raise everything? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think he does this and that, but I know, he's got friends. I mean, he's bringing us awesome food. So that's what I think you want to have them feel about your brand. And all of you listening that are wondering too.
Thanks. We were also. So how you mentioned a little bit of further processing, especially on your beef. Like, well, one thing we had was like because there are some outlets that only let you sell your own products, but then if we do further processing on somebody else's product, would you consider that to be your product at that point, or I don't know. I mean, it was kind of ambiguous, and it's something.
So if I buy a live hog from my neighbor, which I do, or what I call a neighbor like 5 miles down the road, but my neighbor, and I buy that and I turn that into bacon, yeah, I mean, I consider that my product. Now, I work with a guy named John Peterson with Ferndale Turkeys, and he's got his own labeled turkey sausages. But people are used to seeing Ferndale Market turkeys in their box next to Wallace Farms. And I have no problem with that because I tell them all about John. So it goes back and forth. Some of this stuff is mine, and some of it is his. It depends on how I get it and you know, who's paying the processing, I guess. So I wouldn't be afraid to let somebody else carry that fee. Because if you try to put everything under Wild Rose Pastures, and not saying you won't, but if you do, you're going to have to pay all that cost up front to keep that inventory. So it's beneficial for me to buy Ferndale Market turkeys and products like that because I order it from him when I need it, and he carries that cost until I get it. And then I sell through it rather quickly for him, and then I pay him, like a net 15 or whatever, 30 or 20 or whatever you're working. So you kind of get the benefit of the product and the profit with less risk, less money. Cash flow is huge in our businesses, as you probably know, and a lot of people listening. I mean, you really need good cash flow to make things go. And that's why, and I don't know how many of you follow this, but Thundering Hooves, Joel Huseby, he designed the mobile abattoir. But I just found out that he has very booming, successful grass-fed beef business, but they mostly wholesale. This is out in Washington State. They wholesale, and they're reorganizing because a lot of their restaurants and grocery stores or whatever, mostly restaurants, couldn't afford their payment time. They were sitting too far back with receivables. So, the more direct you can go with people, the better, I think.
Well, we were wondering, how does brokering affect your liability insurance? Does it have any effect? It's not something we asked our insurance guy about, but I was just kind of wondering.
They just know that we're in the business of selling meat, or however they retail meat sales or whatever their code is. My brother's actually in the insurance business, so he kind of handles a lot of that. But they're not going. I mean, assuming you're going through all the processing, the USDA and the state inspector, it doesn't really. We haven't found that they've come back and put extra premiums on us because of it.
Okay. That makes sense. I wasn't sure.
And not to go ahead.
I was just wondering. I mean, that kind of leads into the next question. Was basically, did you have any additional permits that are kind of required?
Not that I know of, and I looked through all of them, and after talking with our, the lady that comes out once a year, I mean, it's not anymore. Because everything's all they care about is as long as it's processed in a inspected facility. That's where the problems lie. If you try to go through a custom exempt plant, like with your chickens, I did that once, and since I didn't have every customer's name on each chicken that they bought, they wrote me up. So that's when I got out of I used to raise chickens like you did, and I got out of it because it was crazy. Like I only did batches of 200, and then I couldn't find a place to process them. So the only place was a custom exempt, which is still inspected. But anyway, we won't get too far into that. But anyway.
I understand. Well, a lot of the other questions, I think you went into some depth. You mentioned during your presentation how you started brokering. You said you started brokering Doug Gunnick's cattle. I mean, basically buying his cattle and then kind of branching out from there and then raising your own. And so I think you probably pretty much answered that. My next question which got bled into that other line was, what is your greatest challenge you face when brokering? I mean, I guess what's your biggest time sink? What's the most difficult part for you?
I think the greatest challenge for me is I don't have enough time. I mean, I work with I work with 3 different fish producers and wild seafood harvesters in Alaska. I work with a turkey producer, a dairy or a butter and cheese. I work with 3 beef producers, a couple hog producers. I mean, I probably have 15 different farmer or fishermen that I work with. And the greatest challenge is just managing all that. And keep making sure your inventory is up to date and working with them, making sure they're happy, making sure I'm happy that they don't screw something up through their processor. So it really gets, I'm trying not to take on any more products. It's kind of an addiction of mine now, is to just go out and find a really great product that I've never eaten before, and that's really healthy for me. Like we found a guy in Alaska that can do salmon jerky, 2 different kinds, and it's just fabulous. But I'm trying not to bring on too many products because I probably have like 70 different items that I offer on my order sheet. So by me wanting to bring in more and more different unique stuff, it just adds to my chaos. So I'm kind of trying to pull in the reins a little bit. And my customers love that. They love having new they love having new products because I always vet them first. I always eat them and find, tweak them and whatever, and then we get the perfect one, and then we launch it, and people just love it. So, but it's kind of a catch-22,
I can understand that challenge. Every time you at an enterprise, it's a lot of work on the farm, but I can imagine that every time you're marketing a new product that's a new inventory, you're going to have to manage. It's a new supply you're going to have to deal with. And it's just one more thing for you to do. And like you said, you already don't give farmers as much as you like. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is storage too, You said you had to buy a bunch of freezers. So, I have 2 different places I store stuff, more and more and more, and you get charged more for that, and you got to manage that. And you got to make sure you sell the stuff that, if you bring in new stuff, you got to make sure that first in, first out. And yeah, it can be pretty challenging. So, if I had to do it all over again, maybe I'd just focus on some core items. But, that's hard to say because maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't have so many offerings because it brings a lot of interest and a lot of new customers to your business.
Yeah, I see that. We noticed that generally the larger the city, the less business we do in relation to it. Ames we do good business, and Pella we do very good business, and Des Moines is always on par with these much smaller cities because I think there's a lot of other options and there's a lot of other ways to get a wider suite of products than what we offer on a typical week. So I feel like that's another advantage of possibly brokering is it really might make us as a more attractive one-stop shop. While we're in town, you can get your pork, you can get your beef, and you can get all that stuff and get out and get it done for the month.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think your instincts are right on that.
Cool. We were a little wondering
about expanding on. Go ahead.
No. Well, I was just going to read the next question. So
I was just going to expand. Kathy wanted to expand. Sorry, I'm getting a little feedback.
No, I was just going to read the next one, so we're just getting caught by the lag. So go ahead. You had a comment, so I'll just butt out of it.
Okay. I was just going to expand with Kathy. She had a question to me to go expand on the butter. Let's see, this started back, my dad found this source for me because he works in the grass seed business and with a lot of organic dairy farmers. And so Pastureland Co-op is in southern Minnesota. It's a coalition of I think it's 3 or 4 families that only produce cheese and butter from milk that's grazed from May through October. And we, as a family, had been buying that butter by the case. Like, we'd go up and get 3 cases at a time, and Dad would give each of us kids a case of butter, and it would usually last us, the year or whatever. Well, now we eat a lot more butter than we used to. And so it just made sense for us to hey, maybe we should sell butter. If our family's been eating that much of it for a long time, maybe we should offer it. So I offered it, and at first I think I had to charge $7 or $7.50 or something like that, and which I thought was, crazy, but that's what we were paying. And I have a cult following now for that Pastureland butter. I mean, it is. I'm gonna run out of it before they can start making it again, because I buy it by the pallet, each kind, salted and unsalted, and people are like, oh my God, it's up to $8 now, but it doesn't stop people from buying it. So there's right there. Price is an issue until it's not, because the product is so good that it doesn't matter. And they make cheeses too, and their cheeses are fantastic. So hopefully that's expanded enough on the butter for Kathy on that.
We were wondering, you mentioned it briefly a bit earlier, the process you go through to vet a supplier. You mentioned that basically it's a family food test. If it's good enough for your family to eat, it's good. If it meets the standards of your family, then it meets the standards to sell. I just wondered if you had any other elaboration on that, or if that's pretty much what you go by.
Well, and I have a little bit of an unfair advantage with that story, just because I did have cancer. And I'm not afraid to tell people that and tell them why I think I had it, and I think it was environment. I think I moved away from home. I think it was a lack of nutrition once I went to college and started eating that crap and fast food and all that, and I was still playing college sports, so my body was still being, taxed quite a bit. So when I tell people, well, how do you know, why do you carry what you carry? And I say, hey, I'm out there looking for the best food I can find for myself, because I don't want to get cancer again. And I sure don't want my son, who's almost 2, to get cancer. So I'm not going to carry or eat anything that I don't believe in 100% that is good for me and my body. And I just tell them that if it's good enough for our family, then I offer it to other people, and you can make your own decision.
No, that's a good point. That just kind of makes sense. You've had that experience, and that you might as well make lemonade there. Might as well make lemonade from the lemons there. I was wondering, I assume you probably had a reefer truck. That's how you're transferring product.
Yeah, I'll take you back to when I first started. We were selling very little, and what I would do is I had an insulated tote that fit in the back of my pickup truck, and I would throw dry ice in it before I would go, to the farmer's market or wherever. And then I outgrew that, and then I found a used freezer box that went in the back of the pickup truck, and then I was filling that up so full that I lost a tire. A tire actually popped off my truck going to Chicago one morning early because I had too much weight on it. So I thought, well, I think it's time to get a bigger unit. So what I did was I took that box off and I put it on a trailer, okay, and then pulled the trailer with my truck, of course fixed the tire, and then I was finding that I was running out of room for that, so I bought and that would carry about, I could put like 50 orders in it or something like that, 50 boxes of customers. And then I knew I was in trouble because I was going to run out of space real quick with that. And so I bought this was a big move for us at the time. I bought a Polar King International at like a 8 by 12 trailer. It looks like a big fiberglass box, but it's got a compressor inside that gets to like 10 below, and it's really well insulated. So I could carry about 130 or 40 orders in that. And I thought, oh man, this will last me for a long time, like, 5 years. I may never have to buy another thing. Well, that 1 year that I bought it, by the end of the year, it was so full that in the summer I could barely move the boxes around enough to get people's orders. And the person who shows up first is always the box on the bottom. So not like I had that thing for maybe a year, and then we had to buy a 18-foot freezer truck, a straight truck, international. So that's what I'm driving now. And when my brother, right before I bought it, because we started a trucking company to shelter our liability from Wallace Farms Inc. We did Wallace Farms Trucking Inc. So he said, hey, just make sure when you buy this truck that you buy it big enough so you don't have to buy another truck. And I thought, oh, 18 feet, that's like 8 pallets. Come on, that's fine. So I bought that thing not quite a year ago, and I hate to say it, but when I go into Chicago, I'm not sure if the truck's big enough because I have 3 different stocks, and I'm up to 6 pallets plus maybe another half. And if things keep going by this time next year, I'm going to run out of room in the truck. So it's kind of been a whirlwind, and I've had plenty of problems. I hate trucks. It doesn't care who makes them. It's just, I don't know. It's a sore subject, but it's one of those necessary evils because you have to have freezer storage to keep your product.
Yeah, that's what we found too.
You need it. Your customers need it. The inspectors are going to need it. It's horrible because nothing's cheap. But I'd have to say that those investments are probably the best ones they've made. So, I actually have a used trailer, the first one, if you need something. But anyway, so
I might be interested in that if things get going well. We just gotten by right now by taking old chest freezers, removing the compressor, and then sliding them in the back of the pickup, and then ratcheting the lid down, and then run them with dry ice. And that's typically how we do it. Heavy delivery loads when we have them. Yeah.
And you figured out that dry ice actually takes the oxygen out of the air.
It does.
Did you know that one?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very hard to breathe near it. You get that when you get your face near it. You just have an instinct to pull away from it because it's hard to breathe near it.
My dad would cringe if I told this story, but I'm going to. So all of you who are listening, if you ever buy dry ice, do not put it in the cab of your car or your truck. If you do, you need to roll down the windows. Because my father, years ago, bought a big block of dry ice, just threw it in the back seat, and he was going, packing up the box, whatever. So he was driving across town, and I guess it's funny after the fact. But at the time, he thought he was having a heart attack because he couldn't breathe. He was like having a hard time breathing. So he gets out of the car and the emergency room is like, hey, I think I'm having a heart attack. And he's like, well, how do you feel now? And he's like, oh, I feel a lot better. And they're like, well, where have you been? And they finally figured out that dry ice was in the back seat. And they don't tell you that when you buy it. Maybe a lot of people know that, but anyway, that's your random knowledge for the day. That dry ice takes oxygen out of the air. So there you go.
Yeah, when we buy it, we take the cooler straight up to the container we buy it out of. We put it in that, and then that cooler typically goes straight into another cooler. Because it's stuff it's fairly expensive, and we really want to make sure it lasts for as long as you're going to use it. And typical block of dries is pretty much done in a day and a half or so. So, I mean, of use.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Well, Nick, those are all the questions I have for you. I don't know if the audience has any questions for either of us, or I'm willing to kick it back to Luke or open it up to general questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ryan. I really think your questions were really a great sampling across the spectrum there on brokering. And I wondered if folks are intimidated about brokering, if they want to talk about a different topic, that's acceptable as well. We've got the remainder of the time as for questions that come up for Nick Wallace or Ryan Marquardt. So just go ahead and put those in the chat box.
Yeah, we're willing to talk about anything, including marketing, and I was pleased to see that a lot of our thoughts on marketing kind of jived with Nick's, and so that seemed to me, at least made me feel good as a little guy here. So.
You asked me if you should have asked me a question that you didn't. And the question I'll ask you in return that might help you, and you're probably already doing this, but I always ask myself, what do I want to be doing in a year? What do I want to be doing in 3 years? What do I want to be doing in 5 years? Like, where do you see Wild Rose Pastures going? Where do you want it to go for yourself, for your kids? And they might end up there, and I'm not sure that if I would have done that exercise, we would be where we're at now, or maybe we got there faster. I'm not sure, but I think that's the most important thing, because I do it all the time. I keep trying to steer it to where I want it to go, and generally you hopefully can make at least the big decisions that'll affect that.
Yeah, I noticed some of that too. Like we had when we started the process by creating a business plan, but the business plan is kind of like guidelines, and there's a lot of things that come up along the way. And I think for the most part, we have created what I think. What we originally thought with the business plan. We've there's some things that I think we could have done better. Like I really not sure if buying Indical was a good decision. I could walk away from it tomorrow and probably wouldn't feel bad about it. Cattle prices have gone up a lot more since I bought them, so I'm sure that I could butcher my way to freedom, or even sell off our haired breeding stock there and not feel bad and be just fine. I just it's something that I thought I wanted for the business. I'm not really sure I did. But generally, the visioning thing, like we do try to go through that process kind of annually, especially in the off season. So, okay, what do we try to plan about 6 years in advance? And we've made mistakes along the way. We've had rocky years here and there. A lot of it is learning. I didn't really grow up on a farm. I grew up near a farm. I like to say that as my grandparents' farm, but I didn't grow up on a farm. So there's an inherent learning curve involved, and some things are a little more trial and error than they should be. But we do some visioning, and then we keep those goals posted and in plain sight. Basically, actually right over the can in the bathroom, so you can't miss them. Oh, I see a question from Damien there. As your business is growing, are you tracking which means of advertising and marketing are most successful? Word of mouth, web, and brochures, etc. Somewhat. I generally have a feel for what's been more successful. There are some things like we have a local campaign for Buy Fresh, Buy Local, and I've always been a little antsy of whether or not that is ever really worth the investment, but I'm also supporting that group, so I'm not against doing it. We don't spend any money advertising. I'm going to be completely honest. No, everything that we do is really word of mouth. The only time we spend money is to support organizations that do that kind of marketing. So like the Buy Fresh, Buy Local campaign for Central Iowa is one of the rare examples of marketing that we do. We're not even listed on the grass-fed website, which is something we probably should be, but we're not. We just haven't paid $50 for it. So I like to have a web presence and I like to come up in searches and those types of things, especially when they're looking in our area. But I don't think brochures really get you much. I think a web presence, word of mouth, and like for us, we just started our customer list with friends from my graduate program at Iowa State in sustainable agriculture, and then friends from outside of that, and then we just kind of worked out from there, and so we just are just recruiting that way, and things like working with Picket Fence Creamery is huge because Picket Fence Creamery has a lot of people that go through there, and their sample Sundays are a big event, and so that they see our name. We've been doing that for 3 years. People know we're there, and so she doesn't care if we bring products that she already has from other people in the store. We can bring that. It's fun. We can sell lamb there on that day. I mean, I think word of mouth is probably is by far away your most valuable. I don't know if Nick has any thoughts on that, but I think word of mouth is by far away the most valuable type of.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, more time when people register on our website, we ask them how they heard about us, and I would say well over 50%, 75% is probably it's just a friend. How'd you hear about us? Friend. Because everyone talks. I mean, everyone talks about food. They eat together. You know, I mean, it's just, that's a great thing. I mean, it happens more in the United States. It happens less than anywhere in the world, where people get around and talk about food, and but it's coming back. So
we also
and you need to get on eatwild.com.
We think of our turkeys as recruiting as our customer recruiters, because a lot of people are willing to spend money on that special meal at Thanksgiving, and then we'll get their contact information. We can try to get them again next year for chickens, and we can bring them into other products like lamb. And so turkeys is really our draw product. It's a time of year that without fail we can get into the Des Moines Register, which is the widest circulating newspaper in the state, because there's always an article. At least for the last 3 years, I think we've always had an article in there. If they want to talk to a turkey person, they know to come to us. So I like turkey time. It's just hectic. It's really, I mean, when you have like a business like ours, we do $18,000 a year in sales, and we'll do the vast majority, 3/4 of it here in 6 weeks. It gets you down. You're exhausted by the end of it. Are there any other thoughts or questions out there from the audience or anybody else?
How many laying hens do you have?
Right now we just have 80, but I think we're going to build a new building this year. Because we had problems with coccidiosis with our brooder setup, so we're going to build a new building. It's going to be half chicken house and then divided wall to a brooder that we can brood our turkeys in better. But we'll probably be around 150 layers.
How many laying hens do you think you can
I don't like washing eggs, so I
Is
just
that
for the amount of labor to return for layers, I don't think I was gonna do a 300 hen flock, and I just don't see where that's gonna happen. Unless my kids get older and they want to wash eggs, I don't. It's just like that chore at the end of the night. You're like, oh, crap, I have to do that before I go to bed. I don't like washing eggs that much.
you haven't found a good egg yet? You haven't found like a one that you can wash a lot at one time?
No, I thought about building one, and if that gets to the point where that works out well for us, then I might consider going up again. The biggest problem I have too with a lot of chickens is they when you have them, you don't move them behind the herd like that. They will. I mean, they just destroy the area around their house, and so I mean, we let them run everywhere, so they destroy your entire yard. And so I can see I can see a difference from when I used to have 40 and now I have around 80, and I just can only envision what the difference when I go up to 150 and the difference between 150 and going up to 300 would be. So I'm a little antsy about the impact that they might have. And then if I didn't do that, and I spread out my houses, and then they have impact in different places, and then I have so I mean, I thought about it, but that's something that kind of put the brakes on. I don't know if I want that many layers.
Gotcha.
Luke was asking us, how do we make time for family too with all this work?
Good question. Is this your full time job?
I also work 3 days a week for the federal government
Right.
at the NRCS office, the Natural Resource Conservation Service. It's part-time temporary. I go to flexible hours, just no benefits. My wife has a full-time job, and so it can be a struggle to find time for your family and to get all your farm work done. So we try whenever we do things, we try to. I mean, we rotate our cattle and sheep every day, and so like one of those chores will be probably in the evening when there's more time when I get home from work, and then like rotating pins in the morning for the for the for the chickens, and get all the pins moved in the morning, and like little things like you have to be fast, like we have a water trailer set up with a tank right out with the chickens, and that way that way instead of sitting at a hydrant waiting for your walking to the hydrant filling buckets, you're just dunking buckets in the tank with the float, and you're filling the buckets on the chicken pins. I mean, it's little things like that. You always got to look for time savers, and if you're gonna do this and have to spend time with your family and try to have some downtime for crazy hobbies. Yeah, that's you gotta really take a fine tooth comb to everything. And there are things that like our handling facilities are appallingly bad. So that kind of you just gotta find a way. You gotta address it. I don't know if Nick has any thoughts on kind of time.
It is a hot topic in our house, and I refuse to work on weekends. I go into Chicago once a weekend, once a month. Other than that, and at night, I generally don't do things. I had to decide whether or not to do this, but I decided to because I had never done one before. But generally, there are just boundaries that I try not to cross, and so I try to make the weekends and evenings and when I'm home much as family as possible. I probably neglect some farm work to do it, but oh well. I guess the cows can get over it.
Yeah, I found that too. Like I'm more willing to go, like if we don't get to something on the farm right away, as long as it's not something critical for the livestock, like then I'm not. You just learn to mellow on that stuff a little bit more. Things don't always get done like I like them, or like I still have a carport built for all the vehicles here, and you haven't put rock down and things like that. those little things aren't as critical as like making sure pins get moved and birds get rotated outside. Those things don't always get done on a very timely fashion. But you just kind of, it is an issue trying to balance everything. And I have trouble saying no sometimes, like involve church council president and township trustees and then board chair at Inca. So those things eat into my time, and I mean those are all problems that you have to kind of, you have to balance them. You have to, and if you're involved in other things like that, you have to delegate because you need to see your family.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Daniel's got a question
We
here.
get a question from Dave.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned working turkeys and making margin of 50%. What would your margin of profit be when you raise turkeys? Oh, it's 50%. The margin on turkeys is 50%. Land is right around, unless there's smoke. Smoke is 65%. This is not counting labor. This is just cash in, cash out, feed in, feed out type of thing. Let's see. Here, we'll give you a quick rundown. The lowest is broilers. Broilers is right around 30%. Is right around 25 to 30%, depending on their size. The smaller the bird, the less the margin. Eggs is a little higher, right around 30%, 35. We just raised the prices, so it's closer to 35% now. Let's see. Next up is straight whole turkeys is next. It's right around 50%. It kind of depends on chick survival because those little white turkeys are just the easiest darn things to kill. Really easy. I mean, I joke with people that two white turkeys walk up to each other and one says, "Hey Bob, how you doing? Hey, can I sit on your head and kill you?" Okay, great. Yeah, they are very fragile for the first 4 weeks, and it doesn't take much. So bad. Then land is we have problems with we raise hair sheep, and so right now our lamb carcasses aren't at a size that I'm happy with, and so we're still trying to find ways to push that up. But that margin is generally right around 54%. And you raise your own.
Sam had a question. Do you care if I answer that, Ryan?
I look with Sam's question. I think Nick summarized it pretty well when he said that that there's so much more demand than there is product out there that I think it's going to be a long time before retail outlets are going to really be able to provide all the products that people want. And the other thing too is like they're buying from me and Nick. They're buying from the farmer, and that means a lot more to people than buying it from an outlet. So I mean, I once gave a lecture to students in a really traditional agriculture class, and they were wondering if because my product was really nichey, and whether or not I was worried about my farm future. And I told them that I was far more concerned about their medium-sized farms than my small farm. I'm not worried about the guess. Nick has any thoughts?
No. Well, and I think as we grow, I don't think that farmers who are doing what we're doing are willing to take less money to sell to a retail store. I think that we're going to find that more people want to come to the farm. So I see it as a retailer is really going to be in a bind to come up with a small niche, high quality product. So, I mean, I get a lot of people that don't go to Whole Foods anymore in Chicago because, yeah, Whole Foods might say that they're doing this or that, but in the back of their minds, I think they just think, I don't know. I mean, how do you know if they're really telling you the truth? And yeah, they got those photos up, and, they're going to get some bad press for this and that. I think if you can connect them right to you or to you with, you're the face of some other farmers, and it's all about how you convey that to them. I mean, and like you said, the demand will be so high at that point that I guess I've never really worried about retail outlets.
I don't even used to sell to them, and I just I don't know, I got tired of dealing with them, and I'd rather just have the control of my own product. Like for instance, an example would be like in Ames, we put up a new store. They're a lot bigger, but you'd be surprised at the number of. They used to have a lot of suppliers, and you'd be surprised at the number of the local suppliers they lost when they got bigger because their volume demands went up and the local guys couldn't provide them, so then they went elsewhere. So I look at the store and I'm like, it's a beautiful store, but I feel in some ways that they don't have as many local products as they did from the local guys that they used to have because the supply isn't there and they didn't put the time in to kind of do the work with the farmers to get their supply up when they increase their square footage. That's just a personal experience from. Yeah. I don't know if there's any other questions or if there's any other comments. If anybody has anything else, feel free to put it forward. To answer Luke's question, what does your business need more of to get where you want to be? Is infrastructure / processing or customers? We have pretty bad infrastructure. It's a kind of it's chicken and egg thing as always. You're always I'm always a little hesitant to jump into things, but I've almost always found that if I'm willing to if we have a product, we've been able to sell it. So I don't know why I get a little nervous about new things, but I really shouldn't be. So we haven't had any trouble with it before, and every year we've always unplugged all of our freezers. So we always run out of product. Good, bad, and different. We're always running out of. But there are things like with the addition of we now have 9 freezers in there, so space is tight in that building now, and so that's something that's always an issue. Is as you grow, you buy things for infrastructure, and then they're not, like Nick was mentioning with his transport, that's not sized properly anymore, and then you need something else. And especially if you really hit that curve fast, it's a real whirlwind. But we're still trying to get some of our production infrastructure, like our landing facilities, handling facilities, and much better chicken things. I don't know if Nick has any other
thoughts. My biggest needs are we just took a big chunk off to do infrastructure. So I think we're right there. I think employees are a problem for me in the future. That kind of goes to Sam's point. There's only so much I can do, and I've been doing it for so long that I need to find the right person to delegate stuff to, but at the same time, I wear like 15 different hats. So when you're a farmer, a marketer, a truck driver, you pack orders, you do marketing. It's endless. So it's kind of really hard for me to figure out what I want to do, what I need to do, and what I can afford to pay somebody else, because I'm kind of in the middle where I don't have a ton of extra capital to making employees. But I've had some friends say, oh, you find a good employee, it'll be the best money ever spent. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I got pretty good infrastructure, but we're just growing so fast. I'm telling you, all of you people that are listening that are raising food or want to raise high quality food, or you're into that, the market is just getting started. It's just getting started. And I'll just follow up. Damien asked, do I see a developing market for exotic meats? Ostrich. I get a lot of people that ask me for buffalo, and I do have a guy that I could get grass-fed buffalo from, but I feel like it's so close to grass-fed beef that I just am not willing to take on one more product. I think I'd rather just value add some of the products that I have now. I mean, we're working on like a corned beef. We're working on already cooked bread. I think the biggest sector I'm trying to move into is already easy to cook, ready to go foods for mothers and families who are very busy and have very little time to cook. So if they're going to cook most of their meals, but there's 2 nights out of the week that they just, people are running all over the place, I'm trying to create products that they can buy for easy meals that are still healthy for the family. That's my developing market that I'm working on.
That's like the golden egg, Nick. I mean, if you can, if you can get that, I mean that's the logical place, I think. Products like that make sense. I don't think we're going to be. That's not something we have even on the horizon, but that's especially if you're marketing in the Chicago area. I can definitely see that as a really logical product line to be going down. To answer Sam's question, do you envision having employees at some point in time?
Can we have
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick, if you got something here.
No, go ahead.
To answer Sam's question, do you envision having employees at some point in time? For me, it's like possible. It's something we've thought about. I'm certainly not to the point where I can afford employees. We have people that we barter with for product for specific skill sets that I don't have. Like I am not an electrician. I am a really marginal carpenter. So yeah, I barter for those skill sets because I don't have them. I didn't grow up with them, and so I try to pick up as much as I can along the way. But I'm certainly not there yet on some of that stuff. But I mean, like on our date night, we had a date night finally with my wife last week. We talked about what happens if $10 million went in your lap. Wow, I told her I'd return to my grandparents' farm and I'd buy out a chunk of it and I'd farm out on the west side of the one, and I'd have on here on the east side and on the west side, and we could crank out marketing in those directions. But that's in a different world than I'm living in. It's not something that we think.
I see Sam asked, do I base adding a new product on primarily my interest or expressed customer interest? I think mostly it's driven by my interest. Well, because I'm a customer, I guess. I get bored of eating all my stuff, and so I'm just always looking for some new flavors, some new, just something new. I like to cook. I did part of a culinary program, so that's part of me that's the addiction part. I just try to find the new, take what's out there that's commodity, that's the source of it's bad, and then I can say, oh, well, if I can source a good product and do a similar thing, that's how I've addressed it. And then I'll go quick on Damien's, are you guys packaging, back sealing, or receiving the product with the service included? I think you're asking, if I sell it that way without, are you guys packaging, vacuum sealing your product from seed? Yeah, I paid my processors. I tell them what they want to do to it, and they vacuum seal it pretty much everything, unless it has a bone in it, and then I just wrap it because it always breaks the seal. Do I sign a formal contract with my vendors? I've been lucky enough that I don't have to sign a contract. We've talked about it a little bit when we've gotten into some really big, I'm buying like 100 animals from one producer, and that we've talked about it, but I find it refreshing that we haven't had to. It's just my word and their word, and kind of a handshake thing. So let's see. I'll just go real quick so that you can follow up, Ryan. What risk management protocols do I follow when I broker on other farms? I don't know, Luke. You might have to expand on that. What you mean by risk management? Are we talking like insurance? Oh, if something bad happens. Well, knock on wood, we haven't. The one thing that we do, one of our processors does E. coli test ground beef. I didn't even know they did it. They just do it for me. I feel like our products are processed and are so clean in the nature of them that there really isn't going to be a food safety issue. Maybe that's ignorance on my part, but I guess that's why I have insurance. But generally, I feel like our products are less susceptible to that.
We have product liability insurance, so we try to. And then you structure. It just makes sense to structure business too as an LLC and keep your finances structured that way. So you have at least a firewall should stuff really hit the fan between your personal. And try to have some kind of firewall between your personal and your business finances. As for Damien's question earlier, packing and vacuum sealing. Right now, I'm going to be working with at least my land walker to make sure that they're putting my label on there. My logo on their product, but right now nobody's doing that, so we add our logo to the product. And like when we get chickens back from the walker, we double bag them. We put a second bag on them when they come home, and then we'll put our logo on the outside of it, tape it down, and then put a second bag on it, because I don't trust the little 0.1 mil bags that come back in bags that come from the walker, and I want to make sure if I butcher. For instance, if I butcher birds, they're good for up to, I feel very comfortable they're good. Even though that was never an issue this year, we struggling to keep up. Yeah. I didn't answer Sam's question. Adding a new product. Generally, I want to make sure that it's a product that I use in our home. Like I really miss the fact that we don't have pork right now, and we don't have pork as part of our business, and it's not something I don't have a lot of hog experience with. It's something I've been a little antsy about approaching right now. But I'd like to have pork and beef from our farm available to our customers in my freezer. I don't know if that's the way we'll approach it in the future. Like I mentioned with the beef earlier, I'm not really sure that I'm very skeptical that our land base can do that when I need it. Luke said 3 minutes left, so put your final questions in the chat box, and we'll see if we can get an answer.
Thank you very much, Ryan and Nick. While someone might be thinking about one last question, I might put in one word of thank you for your time and your knowledge and your experiences with this exciting kind of farm businesses. And I really appreciate how open you both were with your numbers and your struggles as well as your successes. So thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. If anybody has any questions now or tomorrow or whenever, feel free to just email me. Be happy to let you know.
Same here. If you come up with questions later, feel free to shoot us an email. You can also, that works. I appreciate the opportunity to meet Nick. I heard his name mentioned before, but I never had a chance to even to talk with him. So that's been fun.
So join us next week for our final Farminar on keeping good farm records with Linda Halley. Have a safe trip home if you're driving, and if you're not, that's great. Talk to you soon.